Hoi Doorzetters. I just wanted to do a review of the show Adolescence, which I watched about 2 weeks ago, and I wanted to do it while it's still fresh in my mind. I've written down a few key points I want to discuss. Firstly, I think it's a very well-made production, and it touches upon topics that need to be discussed, including mental health of men, the challenges young people face in today's culture of technology, the atomization of society in the sense that we are using our devices and we're kind of in these echo chambers and the algorithms are feeding information to you. And this is a concern for our youth, as we adults don't always know what they're watching, and if the parents are maybe 30 years older, they're so far detached in terms of generations that a lot of the content in this show has been incredibly shocking, understandably. I just wanted to talk about the production quality. I thought it was filmed in a very clever way with that one-shot approach, where I believe each episode was done in a shot. So if there was a scene that involved different rooms of a building or different buildings, the actors would need to be ready in those rooms because the camera would be moving. For example, in the scene in the first episode, spoiler alert, where the camera is going up the stairs when the police are entering the house. I think it's a very authentic way of telling stories, and I think it's a type of filmmaking we should do more, especially in this age of technology where we have more deep fakes, and this can be seen as a more authentic form of filmmaking. So maybe this will be something that becomes more commonplace. I wanted to start with things that I'm happy with about the show. I'm happy about the awareness that we're now talking about the issues facing young people today, which is important. And it's covering a topic that was not really discussed before, and it was kind of seen by many people as an elephant in the room, but people didn't know how to talk about it, and now it's being discussed. So I guess at least it's being discussed. However, I do have some concerns with the show, and I just want to outline these concerns. Keir Starmer mentioned in, I think it was in Prime Minister's Questions, that he and his family were watching it. And we all can watch Netflix, but I'm concerned that he was talking about it as if it was a documentary and presenting it in Parliament, but it's not a documentary, it's a fictional story, which has been inspired by some elements of truth, such as this subculture, internet subculture, and the problem with technology in our younger generations. However, it's one perspective, and just like each episode is taken in one take and it's a snapshot of the events, this show as a whole is one single snapshot and interpretation of events, and it's fictional. It's not based on a particular story. And we need to be careful, because the number of events that have happened which resemble what happened in the show are actually a lot less than what the show implies. And another issue is that these young men are actually at higher risk of suicide to themselves and higher risk of severe mental health problems and being ostracized by society. And yes, there have been some events that have been linked to the incel movement, but it hasn't been established that there is a organized group of people that want to do these terrible things. In reality, a lot of these people are people with very difficult problems socializing, mental health problems, in their rooms, in echo chambers, just talking to people. They're talking to people on the internet, but not meeting in person, behind a screen. They're not an organized crime group. We risk ostracizing people that are in need of help and good male role models. I think it was in episode 2, there was an example of the policeman how he was reflecting on how he could be a role model to his son. And I think it's important for men as a whole to think about how we can be good role models for the next generation and younger men. And I think it was that was a good scene, because it showed the son of the policeman talking to his dad about how there are things going on in his generation that his dad wasn't aware of, and helping his dad to see these issues that have been ignored or not accessible and understandable to the older generations. And I think it was good to show them talking about the issue and him also thinking about what he can do to help his son. I think that this topic is an incredibly nuanced topic, and I recommend anyone who's interested looking at the work of William Costello, who is a man who did a PhD on incels and the incel phenomenon, and he did very detailed study into it. And I think he's a very empathetic man who's looked at the different sides, and I believe he gives a more balanced viewpoint. And I would appreciate anyone looking at his work. I put the link in the description, because I think that this show was written from one perspective, and I believe it's the equivalent of showing everyone the leaves of a tree, but not even the leaves of a tree, because a lot of these events are not actually real things yet. They're potential risks or potential looming problems which could happen, but they're not actually the things that are already there, essentially the leaves on the tree. So I think the show is like showing the leaves on the tree when there's actually some underlying roots of the problem that are a lot deeper and have been going on for a lot longer. Just to touch upon them, some of the issues are, I believe a lot of young men don't want to talk about their problems, partly because it's hard, I think, to appear vulnerable as a man. People feel that that's hard. But another factor is I feel that a lot of men feel that they might not be understood, because people think that historically it's been a lot easier for men. So if a man mentions his problems, he feels that he might not be understood. And I feel that this is difficult because it can drive people into more isolation and go into an echo chamber, which I'm concerned about. Another issue is there's been a lot of stuff in the news about toxic masculinity and what men shouldn't be. There's been a lot of cancel culture, and men are being told throughout their lives what they shouldn't be, but no one is actually helping them to understand what aspects of masculinity are good for society. And I think it's better to have good role models and present good role models rather than just say this is what you should not be. Because when you make accusations that you should not be this, it's making an assumption that their inherent nature is to be like that, which is not the case at all. And I do have big concerns for young men. I care very much about this issue, and I want anyone to know that's struggling at the moment that people do care. Sometimes we might feel that there aren't many people that care, but I promise you that there are a lot of people who care, and I think a lot about men's mental well-being. And it is not a crime to mention that you're going through a problem. Do not feel that you will be judged, and if someone judges you, that would be someone that doesn't have empathy. I think we need to approach this from a very empathetic standpoint and see us as humanity as a interconnected ecosystem, not to think that if one group does well, another group has to lose. I think that's the wrong approach. It's about looking at each group and understanding the challenges that each group has with empathy and helping those people. Overall, I think adolescence was a topic on a was on a topic that definitely needs to be discussed, but I think it shows one perspective and we need to get to the roots of the problem. William Costello, I think, believe he's done excellent work on the topic, and you can see his interviews in some podcasts. But let me know what you think. If you are going through something, please speak to someone about it, and there are people that care, I promise.